The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew.
Glory to you, O Lord.
At that time, Jesus told his disciples this parable. It will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted to them his property. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to each according to his ability. Then he went away. He who had received the 5 talents went at once and traded with them, and he had made 5 talents more. So also he who had the 2 talents made 2 talents more. But he who had received the 1 talent went and dug in the ground and hid his master's money. Now after a long time, the master of those servants came and settled accounts with them. And he who had received the 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 talents more, saying, Master, you delivered to me 5 talents. Here I have made 5 more. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will settle you so much. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. And he also, who had the 2 talents, came forward, saying, Master, you delivered to me 2 talents. Here I have made 2 talents more. His master said to him, Well then, good and faithful servant, you have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. He also, who had received the 1 talent, came forward, saying, Master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow, and gathering where you scattered no seed. So I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here you have what is yours. But his master answered him, You wicked and slothful servant, you knew that I reap where I have not sown, and gather where I scattered no seed. Then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers, and at my coming I should have received what was my own with interest. So take the talent from him and give it to him who has the 10 talents. For to everyone who has will more be given, and he will have an abundance. And from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away. And cast the worthless servant into the outer darkness. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Glory and praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Glory and praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Dear sisters and brothers, today, the 33rd Sunday of the ordinary time of this 3rd cycle of Sunday Liturgy of the Word, we have from Matthew, the last of the series of parables. So we are going to miss Matthew the days to come. We have to wait for another 2 years for the 3rd cycle to have these series of parables again. The last of the series of parables of Matthew about the kingdom. Understandably then, we are nearing the end of Jesus' life. So we are the 25th chapter. Matthew has only 28 chapters. The rest of the 3 chapters are going to be speaking about his end. So we are coming to the end of Jesus' life. And we are also, dear friends, coming to the end of our liturgical year. The cycle is going to get completed next week with the solemnity of Christ the King. Therefore, we are in the second last Sunday of the liturgical year. And it is also, it also speaks to us about the end of our own times, of our own lifetimes. So what it is going to be all about? The Gospel is very emphatic that the Master went away. And then the servants do something in between. Now, after a long time, the master of those servants came and settled accounts with them. This is very crucial difference for our thinking. The master's return. So it's the end time. And you know, the time has elapsed enormously after a long time. So the master has given an elastic time for us to work, and he comes. So it is the return of the Lord, the coming of the Lord. Therefore, it speaks to me and should be speaking to you also of our end times, dear friends, when the Master returns. What will happen when the Master comes? It is said he will settle accounts with them. Translating it, he will settle accounts with me and surely with you if you want to join me. And that's why the Parousia, the early church people were expecting Jesus to come back immediately after his ascension. But it so happened that there was a delay, and when they saw the delay, they started living as they wanted. And it is there Matthew writes to them, the Lord will come, may come after a long time, as the parable says, but he will come and he will ask for an account of each one of us. That Matthew emphatically stresses upon. You can see that. That is why in dealing with today my whole focus, dear friends, will be on the third servant. Not only for want of time, but more than that, for want of focus. Because I want to get into the beauty of my Lord's way of conveying his kingdom message through the parables. I tell you, Jesus' acumen, his deft way of handling these parables. So we will take one character and focus in depth what the message of the kingdom that Jesus would like to convey regarding the end times. So in speaking to the third fellow, he was saying, yes, you know that I reap where I have not sown, and I gather where I scattered no seed. Please note, these are all reaping and sowing. What you sow, you reap. And then what you scatter, you collect, you gather. So these are harvest. And harvest in the biblical understanding is the last times. It's very beautifully that parable is contextualized to give us a feel of the judgment times. It is going to be a time of reckoning, a time of settling accounts. My dear friends, no one can escape this. We are accountable. There will be a moment of reckoning. And Jesus would like to tell us at the end of the liturgical cycle and at the end of this Matthean parable series that let us take our lives seriously. That's the thing. Now we come in detail to the third servant who received 1 talent. I'll come back to the talents later. He received 1 talent. What did he do? It is said that He who had received the 1 talent went, good, he goes from the master because master also goes away, and dug in the ground and hid his master's money. So he made a hole in the ground and he put his talent under the ground. Dear friends, this is a very common safety measure in those times, in the biblical times. You must understand that it is permitted, the rabbis say, the teachers of the Jewish law, in those times it is permitted to bury your wealth or property or whatever it is or coin under the ground for safety measures in times of crisis. When there is a war, they will loot your money, or when the enemy is at you, focusing on you, you can bury these things. That is why, interestingly, we'll see in one of Jesus' parables, 13th chapter of Matthew again, whole of 13th chapter is full of kingdom parables, one after another. In that parable, 44th verse, he will say, the kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field, which someone has found. So this was a common practice of hiding the treasure for safety measure, particularly in times of crisis, and safeguard it. So it is permitted. And our friend, the third servant, does that. And the master is reckoning, and he says, he who had 1 talent also came forward, saying to him, Master, here you have what is yours. Let's go into the spirit of the parable, dear friends. I invite you. Suppose you and I were to take his place. You are producing to the master, and the exact words are, Master, here you have what is yours. And the expectations of the master are rather cruel. I'll put it in inverted commas. Rather cruel. Yes, mine is safe. I should be happy. He safeguarded my money. No loss. I should have been happy to take it. But the master is different. My master, when he comes to account from me, his expectations will be totally different, dear friends. I do not want what is mine, but I want what is yours. This is the beauty, my dear friends. To each one of us in our ears, Jesus is audibly speaking to us. I do not want mine. Mine I can keep safe. I could have kept it safe. I gave it to you so that I will receive what is yours. What is your contribution? What are your efforts? Where have you applied your mind, your interest? Interest, not only money interest, your personal interest. What have you done with what I gave you? What a terrible, terrible expectation, dear friends. Then the servant is pale, is dark, is small, is not able to manage the situation. He says, Master, I know you. I know who you are. He says, I know you are a hard man. Definitely my master will be hard on the judgment day. And next week's parable will speak about that hard judgment, the last judgment. My master will be demanding from me. I cannot take it for a ride. I cannot take it easily, my friends, my life. That's why to be a Christian disciple of my master is very challenging and very difficult indeed. I say that. I knew, he claims that he knows him. He claims, I tell you, as an excuse, I know you are a hard man, reaping where you are not sown, gathering where you are not scattered. So I was afraid. And the master says, as much as you know me, dear friend, I know you. That is why when I distributed my property, he says, it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted to them his property. To one he gave 5, one he gave, to another he gave 2, to another, our friend here, 1. Why? To each according to his ability. I know, my friend, your ability. I am not asking you to be excellent. I don't want to be a saint. I want to look at the ideal. Look at the ideal thing that is possible. The possible could have been worked out. See how beautifully the parable goes into the depths, my dear friends, step by step. With the third character alone, he says, I acknowledge that you know me. And the master says, yes, as you told me, I am hard. I expect this and that. You know that. Therefore, I know you better than what you know about me. I know your capacity, your limitation. That is why I gave 1 to you. I didn't burden you too much. So I don't overtax you. I don't overburden you with 5, with 2 like the others. I gave you what you can work out. See, that's why the expectation is great. My dear friends, it is there that the master's expectation is justified because he knew his capacity, he is capable of that, but it did not turn over. That's the whole problem of the third servant. And he says, the next point, I was afraid and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Fear. One of the dangers of life is fear. And there are 2 kinds of fear. One fear is slavish fear. A slave fears for the master, always trembling, always nervous. And in that nervous mind, he commits one after another blunders because he is nervous. That is slavish fear. So the slavish fear can paralyze you, can cripple you, tell you. It can handicap you from being bold. That is slavish fear. The master doesn't want a slavish fear as this servant exhibited. But luckily we have that's why all the readings, my Catholic Church, I'm very grateful how it arranges the readings for us. No? The Psalm read out beautifully and we replied. Our response was, blessed are those who fear the Lord. There should be fear. There should be fear. Indeed, thus shall be blessed the man who fears the Lord. May the Lord bless you from Zion. May you see Jerusalem prosper all the days of your life. The man who fears the Lord will be blessed abundantly. There should be fear. But it is a reverential fear, a responsible fear. The master has so much trust in me, therefore the entrusting is also equally so much. So only when you trust a person, you entrust things to that person. The master has got trust in me, therefore he has entrusted these things to me. Therefore I need to be also responsible. My dear friends, so challenging. So fear will cripple you, this kind of slavish fear. That's why the master is not taken up, is not becoming so softened by his saying that I was afraid of you. Oh, you are afraid of me, understand? No, this fear is slavish. The fear of the Lord, where you will put in heart and soul and live your life, that is the fear that enables you to bloom, blossom, bring out double fold to the master and enjoy the master's blessings. So dear friends, this is the thing that, and the master is, again you see, Jesus purposely projects the master as a very, very tough person to say what is demanded of us. No? He here says, you wicked and slothful servant, you ought to have invested money with the bankers. My God, what a shock. You should have invested my money with the bankers, and at my coming, I should have received what was mine with interest. You are saying yours is here. No, I should receive mine with interest. I meant both the interest that money could accrue, plus the interest that I have put in. What is the interest that I have put in for God's gifts to in my life? That's the challenge. So here is a big challenge. One of the Psalms, again, we read in Psalm 15:5, it reads that, O God, who has the right to enter your tent? Who can enter who will be blessed in your tent, or to live or to live on your holy mountain? Who is fortunate? He who stands by his pledge at any cost, who keeps his word, he who does not ask interest on loans. You should not take interest on loans. Then only you'll be admitted into the tent of the Lord, on the mountain of the Lord. That's a psalm. But here the master, the parable, that's what I say. In parables, Jesus goes to the extreme to extract the best. And he says, you should have even dealt with the bankers for interest. That means by hook or crook. Though the psalm does not encourage that, to be admitted into the Lord's tent, even that you should have tried that at least, because you should have had the fear of the master in the right sense. That's why your fear cannot excuse you, cannot be a reason to exonerate you from this crime. It's a crime for the master. That's why the punishment is going to be very, very drastic. At the end of the parable, it says, cast the worthless servant. He becomes a worthless servant into the outer darkness. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. It's a judgment parable. Last of the parables, I said, last of the liturgical cycle, and last of my own days are the final judgment days. So, the whole parable speaks to us enormously. There is a total reversal, dear friends, with the two other servants when they came with the doubling of the entrusted property, money. 5 brings 5, 2 brings 2 more. The master said, good and faithful servant you are. Good and faithful servant you are. And to this, our friend, I said our friend because I can more easily I can compare myself with him. Most of the time we are like that. I am like that. Like the third one. Therefore I call him my friend. Asking the Lord for the grace, Lord, rouse me up from this wicked and lazy servant that I am. You are. That's the opposite. Good and faithful, opposite. Good, wicked, faithful, lazy. The two things. We have the second reading from the first letter to the Thessalonians by Paul. Both the letters, 1 Thessalonians and 2 Thessalonians, speak about the Lord's coming. Now, I don't have much time to go into the second reading, beautiful. But one thing I want to say from the second letter of St. Paul to the Thessalonians, we have there in the 3rd chapter, 11th verse, it says, so they were expecting Jesus to come back immediately. It was delayed. Jesus was not coming back, and he has not yet come. Please note, he has not yet come, but he will come. You're going to sing, the Lord who has come will come back. This is the proclamation after the elevation in the Eucharistic prayer, that he will come. He says that now we hear Paul is admonishing, advising, and even challenging the Thessalonians. Now we hear that there are some of you who are living in idleness, laziness, exact word, who are living in idleness, doing no work themselves, but interfering with everyone else. In the Lord Jesus Christ, we order and call on people of this kind to go on quietly working and earning the food that they eat. Therefore, nobody should eat anyone who does not work. That's the final conclusion of Paul. He says that. Therefore, it cannot be lazy. So laziness, taking things for granted, belittling the worth of God's gifts cannot work, dear friends. So, You are not serious with your possibilities, your capabilities. That is the whole challenge, punch of the parable. The responsibility, the accountability. So time has been given. He came back after a long time. It was not an immediate return so that you can even excuse that fellow. But long time has been given, and long time this money has been lying under the ground, useless. So it is very clear that use it or lose it. Use it or lose it. Therefore, take away that money. He has not used it. Therefore, let him lose it. Use it or lose it. Take away the money and give it to him who had 10 talents. That means one who has made 5 plus 5. So this is the challenge placed before us. Asking for our responsibility. Time is given for us. Therefore, if you are seeking a comfortable life, you are becoming lazy with the gifts of God, gift of my life, I will be cruelly treated. There should be risk taking in life. We need to take risk. This man he was very comfortable on his easy chair because the money was safe, he thought. Master does not expect the safety of his property. He safeguards everybody and everybody's property. Therefore, he wants what we need to do, that risk taking, that is a challenge before us. Today, what about us? The talents, my dear friends. He gave talents. Please note, the talents, it's a very enormous amount. I tell you, it is an enormous amount. How much one talent? One talent is equal to 6,000 days' wages. My God, he gave 5 to 1. One talent is 6,000 days' wages. 1 day's wage, already the word denarius. Denarius means 1 day's wage. So plural will be denarii. Double I, denarii. So 1 day's wage into 6,000 days' wage is 1 talent. You can imagine. So 6,000 denarii is given to him. And see, while appreciating the other two, the Master says, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. This is a punch of that parable. Not little. This is not a little amount. 6,000 into 5, so much denarii. Here, 6,000 into 2 talents. It's not a little amount that he has been faithful with. But still, for the Master, this is nothing. So, Master is not entrusted with them with a paltry sum of money. So, because the trust was great, I tell you, because the trust was great, the entrusting was enormously large. God has great trust in you and me, brother. So, God has trust in you, and He says you are capable of bringing out. Our life has to be lived responsibly and carefully and seriously, and taking risk is part of our life's game, dear friends. We have to do good at any cost, double things, multiply things, and that's the Lord expects each one of us. And we have beautiful example today from the first reading. The Old Testament reading is from the book of Wisdom, and the Old Testament is patriarchal. Man takes the lead. He holds the sway in everywhere, in every decision making, in all leadership. That was the patriarchal society of the Old Testament. But even there, he says, an excellent wife who can find. A wife, many of you are here. Husbands, there are so many. Children, there are so many. Priests, we are. Each one of us is given talents according to our capability. We are not overburdened, please. The Master is not cruel to demand more from us. He knows what is my strength, and accordingly He has loaded me with. And therefore, an excellent wife who can find, she is far more precious than jewels. And a wife can be excellent. Another word of saying, you faithful. The servant, as he was praised, he says, you good and faithful servant. Who can be good and faithful wife? The heart of her husband trusts in her. and he will have no lack of grain because he's got an excellent wife. So when the family, each one has got their own talents being put at business in the best transaction, at work, they're multiplied, they're not buried. There we have an excellent family. He says, beautiful reading from the Proverbs, the heart of her husband, she is far more precious than jewels. Woman is not equal with jewels today as it is done in the dowry system. No, she is worth more precious than the jewels. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will have no lack of gain, profit. She does him good, and that is the talent given to you as a wife. She does him good and not harm all the days of her life. She seeks wool and flax and works with willing hands. She works hard, the woman at home. One example to say how a person can use his or her talents. That's what I'm saying here. Beautiful example. She puts her hands to the distaff and her hands hold the spindle. Some handiwork she does those days. Now we go to the office, women go to the office and all that. But women at home, she was doing something to create, to enliven the family, to gain something for the family. She opens her hands to the poor. Mind you, not only her purse is being filled in, but she also opens the door to dole out to the poor, and she reaches out her hands to the needy. So your talents, this is our life. The business of a life, dear friends. Jesus asked for the extreme, go to the bankers and make something money, man. Please do something. Don't be idle, he says. Here the best thing is that charm is deceitful and beauty is vain. But a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Once again, the fear of the Lord. This fear we must have, not that slavish fear of the third servant. Give her the fruit of her hands. Her hands will be full. 5 will become 10, 2 will become 4. Give her the fruits of her hands, and let her works praise her in the gates. In the gates means, those days, I don't have time. Gate is very important, where the wise people, the elders sit on the benches and speak about, dialogue about the village happenings, good and bad things. Judgments are made there. Even the adulterous woman was brought to Jesus, should have been at the gate, because there they make the judgment, there they assess things about the life. The wise and elders sit on the benches at the gates. So this woman, her works will be praised at the gates. The wise and the elders will praise her, this family. So this is the fear of the Lord. So each one of us, dear friends, have our own talents given to us. The Lord trusts us. Therefore, He entrusts enormously to us. 6,000 denarii into 5, 6,000 denarii into 2, 6,000 itself will be the gift given to us. What is our becoming of that, and what is our return of that to the Lord? Even in these COVID times, when things are very cloudy, with so many checks and controls everywhere, so I cannot excuse myself from doing the best that I can do, that I must do. Therefore, ask the Lord, Lord, thank you for the gifts that you have given me, my life, that life that you have blessed with me, blessed with so many opportunities. And you know my capabilities. You don't overburden me. But still, Lord, I have my account to settle with you. Help me that I will be appreciated by you as good and faithful wife, husband, father, son, daughter, a priest.